A single geometric shape rises from deserts, jungles, and plains across our world. The pyramids of Egypt, Mexico, and Cambodia share a hidden blueprint that defies all conventional history. By the end of this journey, you will see a lost chapter of human civilization revealed, one that connects these monuments into a single, global network. We will uncover why builders separated by oceans used the same sacred math and aligned their stone giants to the same stars. This story rewrites everything we thought we knew about our ancient past. What forgotten truth do you believe is waiting to be unearthed? Sun-baked limestone in Egypt gives way to the dense green of a Mexican jungle, and yet the same silent geometry pierces the sky. This is not a coincidence of shape, but a chorus of precision. The Great Pyramid of Giza, the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan, the Castillo at Chichen Itza, and the Temple Mountains of Angkor Wat in Cambodia are separated by thousands of miles and seemingly by entire worlds. Yet they speak a common architectural language, one written in the angles of their sides and the alignments of their corridors. How could cultures who never met, according to our history books, have all chosen the same complex mathematical ratios for their most sacred structures? How could they have all pointed their grandest monuments toward the same specific stars? Early explorers who first documented these sites assumed they were looking at isolated wonders. Modern researchers, however, are confronted with a pattern so consistent it defies simple explanation. The conventional story of human history, where civilizations developed in total isolation, begins to strain under the weight of this global evidence. We are left with two compelling possibilities. Did humanity, in different corners of the globe, simply arrive at the same brilliant architectural solution by chance, a kind of cultural convergent evolution? Or does the repeated presence of this specific, sophisticated blueprint point to something far more profound, a thread of forgotten knowledge that once connected these ancient builders? To find the answer, we must look not just at the peaks of these monuments, but deep into the ground upon which they were built. Their foundations hold the first clue. The ground plan of these monuments reveals a deeper secret, a mathematical fingerprint found in stone. Across the continents, the same two mysterious numbers appear, etched into the very proportions of these colossal structures. These are not simple whole numbers, but the irrational constants known as pi and the golden ratio. The Great Pyramid of Giza presents a stunning example. If you take the perimeter of its square base and divide it by twice its original height, the result is a figure incredibly close to pi, approximately 3.1416. This is not a rough estimate. It is a precise geometric relationship built into the pyramid's core design, a calculation that should have been impossible for its time. Similarly, at Teotihuacan in Mexico, the Pyramid of the Sun is laid out using the golden ratio. The proportions of its platform levels and the distances between the city's major structures reflect this unique ratio, about 1.618. A number celebrated for its perfect aesthetic balance. The chance of two isolated cultures independently embedding these complex, non-repeating numbers into their most important architecture is vanishingly small. This points to a shared and incredibly advanced knowledge of geometry. Researchers suggest that achieving this precision would have required not just advanced surveying tools, but a computational skill that historians never credited to these ancient peoples. Why would builders go to such extraordinary lengths? The answer may lie in a concept known as sacred geometry. This is the idea that certain shapes and ratios hold profound power, that they are the fundamental building blocks of the cosmos itself. By constructing their temples using pi and phi, these ancient engineers may have believed they were tapping into the very energy of creation, aligning their earthly dwellings with the divine principles that govern the universe. This mathematical code was not just for show, it was a deliberate act, a way to make stone resonate with the harmony of the heavens. This mathematical precision reaches for the stars, literally. Across the globe, the silent stone faces of these pyramids turn upward, their corridors and axes pointing toward specific constellations with an accuracy that seems to defy the ages. The three Great Pyramids of Giza are not placed randomly on their plateau. Their layout is a perfect terrestrial map of the three brightest stars in Orion's belt. This celestial mirroring is so precise that it cannot be dismissed as chance. Half a world away in China, the ancient pyramids of Zion are said to echo this same stellar pattern, a silent repetition of the same cosmic code. Meanwhile, at Teotihuacan in Mexico, the Pyramid of the Sun is aligned to frame the Pleiades star cluster at its zenith, the moment it passes directly overhead. These alignments were far more than symbolic gestures. They were the beating heart of ancient society, functioning as colossal calendars that dictated the rhythm of life. The solstices and equinoxes, marked by shadows crawling along sacred stairways, told farmers when to plant and when to harvest. They dictated the timing of religious ceremonies, linking the power of the gods in the sky to the fate of the people on the ground. This shared, obsessive focus on the heavens points to a profound and consistent understanding of the cosmos. How could cultures separated by vast oceans and millennia develop the same complex astronomical knowledge, identifying the same star groups and building their greatest monuments as permanent observatories? The implication is staggering. It suggests these builders were not working from isolated observations, but from a common and incredibly ancient source of celestial data. A foundational blueprint of the stars seems to have guided their hands, a universal map that connected Earth to the heavens in a way we are only just beginning to comprehend. These stones were moved by more than just muscle. From the multi-ton limestone blocks of the Great Pyramid to the andesite slabs at Bolivia's Puma Punku, cut with a precision that rivals modern machinery, builders across the globe solved the same impossible puzzle. How do you transport stones weighing as much as 80 tons across miles of desert or mountain terrain? How do you shape them with such accuracy that a razor blade cannot slip between the joints? The commonality of their methods suggests a shared and startlingly advanced engineering playbook. In Egypt, researchers proposed the use of massive sleds gliding on artificially wetted clay paths, an ingenious solution that turns friction into a manageable force. Yet even this does not fully explain the logistical miracle of lifting these blocks hundreds of feet into the air with perfect placement. At sites like Puma Punku, the mystery deepens. The stonework features complex geometric cuts, interlocking channels, and drill holes that imply the use of tools far beyond simple copper chisels. The near absence of such tools in the archaeological record has led to fascinating, if controversial, theories. Could these builders have mastered principles of physics we are only rediscovering today? Some researchers point to concepts like harmonic resonance, using specific sound frequencies to temporarily reduce the weight of stone, or an understanding of leverage and counterweights so refined it appears to be magic. This is not merely about brute force. It speaks to a sophisticated knowledge of geology, material science, and large-scale labor management. The same core principles of megalithic construction appear in Egypt, the Americas, and Southeast Asia, a global signature of a lost technological art. This shared enigma points to something profound. Was there a foundational blueprint for moving mountains of stone, a set of engineering secrets that was carried across the world and adapted to local materials and landscapes. The stones themselves whisper of a forgotten school of thought, one that understood the hidden laws of nature and used them to reshape the world. These structures were not merely placed on the land, they were fused with it. The ground beneath the pyramids is as carefully chosen as the stones themselves, with sites selected for powerful geological and geodetic reasons. The Giza Plateau, for instance, is not just a convenient rocky outcrop. It sits at the intersection of what some researchers call ley lines, hypothetical alignments of ancient spiritual or energetic significance that crisscross the globe. This concept of geomancy, the art of harmonizing with the Earth's subtle energies, appears again in Mesoamerica. The Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan was constructed directly over a massive natural cave system, a feature believed by its builders to be a sacred portal to the underworld. Similarly, many temple pyramids across Central America are positioned directly above underground rivers and water systems, as if the structures were designed to tap into the very lifeblood of the planet. This pattern of intentional placement suggests the builders perceived the Earth as a living entity, and they chose to anchor their greatest monuments to its most potent nodes of power. This idea extends to a planetary scale. Some theorists have mapped the locations of key ancient sites, from Giza to Machu Picchu in Peru, and even to the remote Moai statues of Easter Island. They propose that these points form a great circle around the Earth, a precise geometric network etched across the globe. If true, this implies a level of global surveying and cartographic knowledge that completely rewrites our understanding of ancient exploration. Were these sites part of a coordinated system? The staggering implication is that these pyramid builders may have been engaged in a planetary project, using their stone giants to stabilize or somehow interact with the Earth's own energies. This is not about simple symbolism. It points to a lost science that understood the planet as a single, interconnected system. By building on specific geodetic points and powerful geological features, these ancient engineers may have been attempting to harness a fundamental force, turning their pyramids into a global network of resonators connected not just by design, but by the very ground on which they stand. The silent guardian of the Giza Plateau holds a geological secret that challenges the very foundations of history. The Great Sphinx, long attributed to the Pharaoh Khafre around 2500 BC, shows unmistakable signs of deep, vertical weathering on its limestone core body. This is not the pattern of wind and sand erosion, which scours surfaces horizontally. Geologist Robert Schoch, after thorough on-site analysis, concluded this damage was caused by one thing only: prolonged and heavy rainfall, the kind that has not fallen on the Egyptian desert for thousands upon thousands of years. This water erosion hypothesis points to a construction date far earlier than recorded history suggests, potentially placing the Sphinx in a time when the Sahara was a verdant grassland, a period that ended around 7,000 years ago. This single observation, rooted in hard rock science, forces a monumental question. If the Sphinx is that ancient, what about the pyramids standing directly behind it? Their construction could be similarly redated, pushing them back into a lost epoch. This revised timeline aligns with a global cataclysm, a period of dramatic climatic shifts known as the Younger Dryas around 12,000 years ago. Could the Giza complex be a surviving relic from that era, built not at the dawn of civilization but by its sophisticated survivors? This idea provides a stunning potential answer for the when. It suggests a forgotten advanced culture possessing profound astronomical and engineering knowledge was nearly wiped out by a global event. The survivors, scattered across the world, would have carried their sacred blueprint with them, planting the seeds of pyramid construction in Egypt, Mexico, Cambodia, and beyond. This is not just about redating a single monument. It is about shattering the conventional timeline of human achievement and opening the door to a lost chapter, one where the origins of these enigmatic structures lie not with the pharaohs we know, but with the shadowy architects of a forgotten world. The stars were not just observed, they were mapped directly onto the Earth. The Orion correlation theory presents one of the most compelling pieces of this celestial puzzle. It proposes that the three great pyramids of Giza are not randomly placed. They form a precise mirror image of the three stars of Orion's belt, with the Nile River flowing beside them like the cosmic dust of the Milky Way. This is not a vague resemblance. The relative positions and even the brightness of the stars are reflected in the sizes and layout of the pyramids, but the pattern does not end in Egypt. Thousands of miles away, the Grand Avenue and Pyramid Complex of Teotihuacan in Mexico appears to be a scale model of our own solar system. The distances between its major structures correspond with the relative spacing of the planets from our Sun. How could two cultures, separated by an ocean, both choose to build terrestrial maps of the heavens? This is far more than simple stargazing. It implies the existence of a unified cosmological model, a single understanding of the universe that was physically inscribed into the landscape by different hands. The blueprint connecting these sites was not merely an architectural plan for a building. It was a symbolic code for the cosmos itself. Each pyramid was a point in a global network of sacred sites, all designed to reflect a specific, shared vision of humanity's place in the grand celestial order. The persistence of this theme points toward a common source, a foundational school of spiritual and scientific wisdom that understood the universe as an interconnected whole. We are left to wonder what profound truth this ancient model was trying to preserve. Was it a warning, a message, or a map for a journey we have yet to understand? This encoded knowledge suggests these builders saw the Earth and the heavens as two halves of a single, living entity. To uncover their full message, we must listen to what the land itself is trying to tell us. A new and fiercely debated chapter in this global mystery is being written in the heart of Europe. In the town of Visoko, Bosnia, researcher Semir Osmanagic points to a series of massive, pyramid-shaped hills, claiming they are not natural formations but the world's largest and oldest man-made pyramids. The evidence presented is both intriguing and contentious. These structures, particularly the so-called Pyramid of the Sun, feature what appear to be massive, paved terraces, perfectly shaped concrete blocks, and an extensive network of underground tunnels. If these features are genuinely artificial, the implications are earth-shattering. Geological analysis of the site's layers suggests an age that could exceed 20,000 years, a date that would make these structures far older than any pyramid in Egypt or the Americas. This single claim challenges the entire foundation of our understanding of prehistoric Europe, suggesting a level of social organization and engineering prowess that historians never imagined for that time period. The scientific community remains deeply divided, with many mainstream archaeologists dismissing the hills as natural geological formations. Yet the ongoing excavations continue to uncover anomalies that fuel the debate. The discovery of man-made concrete and precisely cut stone in a context that forces a difficult question. Are we looking at a spectacular natural coincidence, or are we witnessing the slow, controversial unveiling of a lost civilization's work? If the Bosnian structures are indeed part of the pattern, they become a crucial, and potentially the original, node in the global pyramid network. Their location in Europe, far from the traditional centers of ancient megalithic construction, suggests the blueprint was even more widespread than we thought. What motivations could drive a culture from such a deep and foggy past to undertake a project of this scale? Were they marking a powerful geodetic point on the planet, creating a monument to survival after a cataclysm, or building a beacon for a purpose we can no longer comprehend? The controversy itself is a clue, highlighting the rigid boundaries of conventional history when faced with evidence that does not fit. Whether ultimately proven to be natural or artificial, the Bosnian pyramids have already succeeded in forcing a necessary and profound re-examination of our ancient past. The Great Pyramid's interior feels less like a silent tomb and more like the complex inner workings of a colossal machine. This is the core of the energy conduit theory, a revolutionary idea that reimagines the pyramid not as a monument to death, but as a testament to life and power. Proponents like researcher Christopher Dunn point to the structure's unique anatomy. Its subterranean chambers, grand gallery with its precise corbelled walls, and the so-called King's Chamber built from massive granite blocks all resemble components of an acoustic device. Granite is key here as it contains quartz crystals, a mineral known to exhibit piezoelectricity. This means that when subjected to mechanical stress or vibration, quartz can generate a small electrical charge. The pyramid's specific shape, a fundamental part of the global blueprint, is now known to be remarkably efficient at focusing electromagnetic energy. Modern experiments with scale models confirm that the pyramid form can concentrate radio waves and other energy fields at its apex. So what if the pyramid was not just a symbol of power, but a functioning power plant? Imagine the structure humming, its granite cores vibrating in tune with the Earth's own natural resonant frequencies, perhaps even channeled by the underground water table beneath the Giza Plateau. This resonant energy, converted through piezoelectricity, could have theoretically produced a tangible, usable power source. This single idea transforms the pyramid from a silent grave into a dynamic, humming engine. If this interpretation is correct for Giza, then the blueprint shared across the world takes on a staggering new meaning. The same precise geometry found in Mexico, Cambodia, and beyond may not have been solely for astronomical observation or spiritual alignment. These global monuments could have been a planetary network of energy harvesters. Each one, built on a specific geological point of power, might have tapped into the Earth's subtle vibrations, generating energy for a purpose we can only guess at. Was this energy used for healing, for communication, or to power a technology that has long since turned to dust? The silent stones no longer seem so silent. They whisper of a forgotten science that understood the Earth as a living, breathing source of power, and built these magnificent structures to converse with it. Deep within the emerald heart of the Guatemalan jungle, a technological marvel has stripped away the veil of time. Light detection and ranging, or LIDAR, is a revolutionary tool that fires millions of laser pulses from an aircraft, painting a three-dimensional map of the ground below by measuring how long each pulse takes to return. It acts like a vast electronic broom, sweeping aside centuries of dense vegetation to reveal the true skin of the Earth. What it has uncovered in places like the Patane region is nothing short of a historical earthquake. Where explorers once saw an impenetrable wilderness, LIDAR revealed a lost world. The scans showed not just a few isolated temples, but a vast, interconnected network of Maya cities, complete with raised highways, intricate irrigation canals, terraced farms, and thousands of previously unknown structures. And rising from the center of these sprawling urban complexes were pyramids, not just one or two, but dozens upon dozens of them. This was not a landscape of isolated villages. It was a sophisticated, densely populated civilization, a web of stone and society all organized around the pyramid as its central anchor. The sheer number of these structures transforms our understanding. Pyramid building was not a rare, elite activity reserved for a single powerful city. It was a systematic, widespread practice, the fundamental architectural principle for an entire culture. The same story unfolded half a world away in Cambodia, around the famous temple of Angkor Wat, long thought to be a monumental island in a ceremonial landscape. LIDAR revealed the truth. The scans exposed a sprawling metropolis of astonishing scale, a low-density urban complex that may have been the largest in the pre-industrial world. This was not just a temple with a supporting village. It was a vast city, meticulously planned with grids of roads, canals, and community temples, many of which were smaller pyramid structures. The evidence is now undeniable. From the Americas to Southeast Asia, the pyramid was not an anomaly. It was the default, the recurring centerpiece for urban and sacred life. This pattern of a central pyramid surrounded by a meticulously planned ceremonial and residential complex is repeated across continents. It points to something far more profound than independent invention. It suggests a common organizational principle, a shared blueprint for how to structure a society around a sacred, geometric heart. The blueprint was not just for a single building, but for an entire city's soul. For centuries, these truths were hidden not by sand or stone, but by a living blanket of green. Now that we can finally see the full scale of what was built, the mystery only deepens. What common thread of knowledge compelled cultures across the globe to organize their world in this specific, powerful way? A serpent slithers silently through the spiritual heart of every pyramid culture. From the golden Urias cobra poised on the brow of an Egyptian pharaoh to the magnificent plumed form of Kukulkan coiling down the steps of El Castillo in Mexico, this potent symbol transcends geography. It is a universal emblem of wisdom, death, and rebirth, its power drawn from the simple, profound act of shedding its skin. This was not merely a decorative motif. It was a core teaching, a visual code for the ultimate human transformation, the journey of the soul ascending from its earthly confines toward a higher state of being. The pyramid itself, with its peak aimed at the heavens, was the ultimate architectural expression of this spiritual climb. The rituals conducted within and upon these structures were likely designed to facilitate this very passage, guiding an individual through a symbolic death and rebirth. This shared narrative points to a foundational belief system that viewed life as a cycle of renewal, with the pyramid serving as the sacred machine to power that transition. This celestial symbolism was not left to the imagination. It was engineered into the stone, brought to life by the sun itself. At Chichen Itza during the spring and autumn equinox, a breathtaking spectacle unfolds. The setting sun casts triangular shadows down the stepped sides of the pyramid of El Castillo. These shadows merge with the stone serpent heads at the base, creating the undulating body of a giant descending serpent. This is no accident of light. It is a precise, calculated alignment, a moment where architecture, astronomy, and deep spiritual belief converge into a single, living image. The serpent, a symbol of both the earth and spiritual wisdom, is seen connecting the heavens to the world below. Similar light hierophanies, where sacred geometry interacts with solar or lunar rays to create ephemeral images, are found at other pyramid sites. This suggests the builders possessed not just advanced astronomical knowledge, but a poetic genius for weaving that knowledge into tangible, awe-inspiring experiences for their people. Why would cultures separated by oceans and millennia all choose the serpent to represent this profound journey? The answer may lie in the very nature of the creature. The snake moves between worlds, gliding on the ground yet able to rise. It is a creature of potent duality, representing both the danger of the earthly realm and the promise of transcendent knowledge. Its cyclical shedding of skin is a perfect, natural metaphor for the soul's liberation from the physical body. The feathered serpent, like Quetzalcoatl, combines these earthly and celestial attributes, symbolizing the ultimate goal, the fusion of human consciousness with divine wisdom. This shared iconography forms a spiritual blueprint as consistent as the mathematical and astronomical ones. It tells us that the pyramid was more than a tomb, a temple, or a potential power generator. It was a spiritual instrument, a physical representation of a universal path to enlightenment. The stones were laid not just to reach the stars, but to show the way for the human spirit to join them. These builders may have spoken a universal language of numbers, one etched not in words but in lengths of rope and stone. A startling pattern emerges when we examine the rulers they used to measure their world. The Egyptian royal cubit, the standard unit for the Great Pyramid, was not an arbitrary length. It was a precise measure, approximately 20.62 inches, and it appears to have a direct mathematical kinship with the Hunab, a theoretical unit of measure proposed for the Maya structures at Teotihuacan in Mexico. The sheer distance between these cultures makes this correlation difficult to dismiss as mere chance. It hints at something far more systematic, a shared metrology or science of measurement that formed the literal backbone of their construction. Researchers like John Mitchell took this idea a step further, proposing the existence of a sacred cubit. This was not a local standard, but a geodetic unit, meaning it was derived from the Earth's own dimensions. Imagine dividing the planet's polar circumference by a specific, recurring number. The result is a length that seems to resonate with the very geometry of our world. If builders across the globe were using local variations of this same fundamental unit, it would be like different countries today all using their own version of the meter, knowing it was all part of one global standard. This shared system of measurement would be the most practical component of the hidden blueprint. A universal unit ensures that the proportions of a pyramid, and thus its harmonic and energetic properties, remain consistent whether it is built in the desert of Egypt or the highlands of Mexico. The sacred math of pi and phi only works if the underlying measurements are perfectly synchronized. To understand the power of this idea, let us perform a virtual reconstruction. Picture the lead architect of a new pyramid, perhaps in a land far from the original source of this knowledge. He does not possess complex blueprints on paper. Instead, he holds a single, carefully maintained measuring rod, a local incarnation of the sacred cubit. With this one tool, he can lay out the entire foundation, ensuring the base perimeter divided by the height will encode pi, and the rising chambers will align with the stars using angles that are mathematically locked to this universal standard. The measurement is the key that unlocks the entire geometric and celestial code. This concept transforms these monuments from isolated wonders into nodes in a coordinated network. They were built to the same specifications because they were born from the same foundational knowledge. The consistent use of a geodetic measure suggests the architects saw the Earth as a single, integrated project. They were not just building for their own people, but were participating in a planetary undertaking, using a common ruler to inscribe a shared message into the very crust of the planet. What profound truth were they trying to preserve by ensuring this global consistency, and why did this specific unit of measure hold such power for them? Digital models now breathe life into this ancient stone network. By feeding precise coordinates and dimensions into advanced software, researchers can construct virtual twins of pyramid sites from Giza to Teotihuacan, Angkor Wat to the highlands of Peru. This is not merely about recreating individual monuments, but about placing them all within a single, interactive digital globe. The software analyzes their alignments, their proportions, and their exact positions on the Earth's curvature. What emerges from this digital canvas is a potential hidden architecture on a planetary scale. The pyramids do not appear as isolated points. They begin to form vast geometric patterns, connecting across continents with lines of sacred geometry, tracing great circles and resonant shapes across the virtual Earth. This method allows scientists to test long-standing theories in a way never before possible. They can simulate the flow of acoustic energy between sites, map the intersections of hypothetical ley lines, and verify astronomical alignments across dozens of locations simultaneously. The initial results from these simulations are profoundly suggestive. They point to a system where the placement of each pyramid was not an isolated decision, but a deliberate act in a global design. Certain models indicate that specific geometric relationships between these sites could have amplified subtle terrestrial energies, perhaps turning the entire network into a stabilizing or harvesting mechanism for the planet's own natural frequencies. This digital archaeology transforms our perception of the blueprint. It is no longer a static set of instructions for a single building, but the schematic for a dynamic, living system. The staggering implication is that these ancient cultures may have been engaged in a form of planetary engineering, a coordinated project of a scale and sophistication we are only now beginning to model. What ultimate purpose could such an immense network have served? Was it designed to heal the Earth, to communicate across vast distances, or to harness a fundamental cosmic energy for a civilization now lost to time? The silent stones now speak through the hum of a computer, revealing a pattern of intelligence woven into the very skin of our world. This shared blueprint may be rooted in a universal memory of catastrophe. From the Mesopotamian epic of Gilgamesh to the Popol Vuh of the Maya, nearly every culture that raised a pyramid also preserved a story of a great deluge. These are not simple tales of a heavy rain. They describe a world-ending event, a divine reset that wiped away a previous age of humanity, leaving only a handful of survivors to begin again. The consistency of this narrative, found across oceans and continents, is itself a profound mystery. It suggests these stories are not mere folklore, but a deep cultural scar, a shared inheritance from a traumatic past event that affected the entire globe. Could the sudden, simultaneous appearance of pyramids be the architectural echo of this cataclysm? If a sophisticated global culture was indeed fragmented by a great flood or similar disaster, its survivors would have been driven by one overwhelming imperative. They would have needed to preserve their most critical knowledge, the sacred math, the star maps, the engineering principles, against the threat of total oblivion. And what better way to safeguard this wisdom than to encode it into the most durable, resilient structures imaginable? The pyramid, with its incredibly stable geometric form, is uniquely resistant to earthquakes, floods, and the slow erosion of time. It becomes more than a temple or a tomb. It transforms into an ark, not of animals but of information. These stone arks were designed to stand as permanent libraries, their very proportions and alignments holding the key to rebuilding civilization. The precision of their astronomy would allow future generations to recalibrate their calendars and understand the cycles of the heavens. The embedded mathematics would teach the principles of geometry and harmony needed for advanced construction. The shared spiritual symbolism would provide a blueprint for cultural and spiritual renewal. This theory weaves the architectural and mythological blueprints into a single, compelling narrative. The global project of pyramid building was not a coincidence of isolated genius. It was a coordinated, post-cataclysmic recovery plan. Scattered groups of survivors, carrying fragments of the same advanced knowledge, used this universal architectural language to re-establish a lost world order. They built these resilient monuments as beacons of hope and repositories of truth, ensuring that even if their new civilizations also fell, the core wisdom of humanity would never be completely lost. The pyramids, therefore, stand not as the proud beginnings of primitive societies, but as the determined legacy of a world that ended, a silent promise from our deepest past to our uncertain future. The stones themselves were designed to sing. Scientific analysis has revealed that the king's chamber within the Great Pyramid resonates at a specific infrasonic frequency, a deep hum felt more in the bones than heard by the ears. This is not an architectural accident. The precise dimensions of the chamber, the granite sarcophagus at its center, and the corbelled ceiling all work in concert to amplify and sustain these vibrations. Remarkably, similar acoustic signatures have been measured in the inner chambers of pyramids in Mesoamerica, where the very stone seems to hold a silent, waiting note. What was the purpose of this shared sonic architecture? Modern research suggests these specific frequencies can directly influence human brainwave patterns. The resonant hum of the pyramid's core could gently guide the mind from a state of normal alertness into the deeper, slower rhythms of theta waves, a state associated with deep meditation, vivid imagery, and heightened receptivity. This points to a conscious design where the pyramid was not just a visual monument, but an instrument for transformation. Imagine a ceremonial practice within these hallowed spaces. The air would be thick with the scent of incense, flickering torchlight dancing on the walls, a chorus of voices chanting in unison, or the drone of a specific instrument like a horn or drum would not just fill the room, it would activate it. The sound waves would interact with the chamber's geometry, building into a powerful, enveloping resonance that could alter the participant's state of awareness. This was likely a tool for spiritual communication, a method to quiet the internal noise of the mind and open a doorway to what was perceived as the divine. The ability to architecturally induce such states implies a sophisticated understanding of the relationship between sound, stone, and human consciousness. This shared feature across the global network suggests the blueprint was not only about aligning with the stars, but also about tuning the human spirit. The pyramid, therefore, becomes a resonant chamber for the soul, a device designed to facilitate a journey inward as much as it reached outward to the cosmos. The same flawless stonework appears where it should not. High in the Andes Mountains of Peru, the fortress of Sacsayhuaman presents a wall of colossal, zigzagging limestone blocks. Each stone is a unique, irregular polygon, some weighing over 100 tons, yet they fit together with a jigsaw puzzle's perfection. No mortar binds them. The joints are so tight that after centuries of exposure, not even the thinnest blade can slip between them. This is polygonal masonry, and its ghost appears across the ancient world. You find it in the foundational layers of Egyptian temples, in the mysterious ruins of Ollantaytambo, and scattered among other pyramid-associated sites. This was not a decorative choice. It was a high engineering art, a deliberate and brilliant solution to one of nature's most destructive forces. The interlocking, irregular shapes create a structure that moves as one living entity during an earthquake. Instead of cracking apart like a rigid, rectangular wall would, the stones in a polygonal wall shift and settle, their complex angles redistributing the immense energy, then locking back into place once the trembling stops. This mastery of seismic dampening reveals a profound understanding of geology and physics. The knowledge required to execute this is staggering. Each block had to be precisely measured and shaped in situ, a three-dimensional carving project of immense complexity. How did cultures separated by continents and oceans all develop this identical, supremely advanced technique? Its presence in so many locations linked to the pyramid cultures suggests it was more than just a local innovation. It feels like another page from the same global blueprint, a standardized chapter on how to build foundations that would last for millennia. This was the ultimate expression of permanence. The pyramid might reach for the stars, but its true strength came from walls that could dance with the earth itself. This shared stone language implies the architects were building not just for their own time, but with a foresight that spanned ages, creating resilient anchors for a knowledge they were desperate to preserve. Why would such a powerful and effective method vanish, only to be rediscovered and lost again in cycles? The stones themselves hold the answer, locked in their silent, seamless embrace. Yet the very science we use to date these stones is now part of the mystery. Conventional carbon dating of organic materials trapped in pyramid mortar often tells a familiar story, one that fits neatly within the timelines of the pharaohs and the classic Maya era. But science, when applied with rigor, has a way of uncovering its own contradictions. Persistent anomalies emerge from the data, like echoes from a much deeper past. The Sphinx enclosure in Egypt, for instance, has yielded carbon dates from materials that suggest a timeline far older than the reign of copper. Similar whispers of great antiquity come from foundational layers of certain Peruvian structures, where the stonework itself feels primordial. The controversy lies not in the data, but in its interpretation. Is this a case of scientific contamination, where older materials have skewed the results? Could ancient builders have reused old wood, timber that had been lying for centuries, in their later constructions, thus creating a false clock? Or do these stubborn, recurring anomalies point to a more radical truth, that the cores of these monuments are genuinely ancient, predating the cultures we credit for their completion by thousands of years? This is not a fringe debate, but a serious scientific discussion happening in laboratories and academic journals. The implications are staggering. If the foundations of Giza or the terraces of Sacsayhuaman are far older than we believe, then the entire narrative of human civilization requires a fundamental rewrite. It would powerfully strengthen the case for a pre-existing, advanced source of knowledge. The cultures we know as the pyramid builders would then be seen not as the original inventors, but as the inheritors and restorers of a legacy left by a forgotten predecessor. They would be the ones who learned the sacred geometry, who understood the seismic engineering, and who chose to build upon the enduring foundations of a world that came before. This scientific controversy forces us to look at the stones with new eyes. We are not just seeing the work of the Egyptians or the Inca, but perhaps the final chapter in a story that began at the end of the last ice age, a story whose first pages are written in a language we are only beginning to decipher. These same minds that calculated celestial orbits may have journeyed inward to find their answers. A profound and recurring theme across the cultures that built these monuments is the ceremonial use of psychoactive plants, substances believed to open a doorway to the spirit world. From the ritual consumption of sacred mushrooms in Mesoamerica to the brewing of powerful ayahuasca in the Amazon, these traditions were not mere recreation. They were considered sacred technologies for accessing hidden realms of knowledge and communicating with divine forces. Emerging theories now ask a daring question. Could the architects of the global pyramid blueprint have used such methods to achieve heightened states of consciousness, receiving the complex blueprints for their structures through visionary experience rather than purely through trial and error? The sheer perfection of the mathematics involved, the pi and phi ratios encoded in stone, and the precise astronomical alignments could be seen as information of a revelatory nature. It is a concept that challenges our modern separation of science and spirituality. The controversial stoned ape theory, proposed by ethnobotanist Terence McKenna, suggests that the very evolution of human cognition, our capacity for language and self-awareness, might have been catalyzed by early encounters with psychedelic compounds. While this idea remains debated, it opens a door to considering how such experiences might have later been harnessed deliberately by ancient priest-scientists. In an altered state, the mind can perceive patterns and connections that are normally invisible. The geometric perfection of a pyramid, the harmonic resonance of its chambers, the intricate dance of the stars, these could all be perceived as facets of a single, unified cosmic order. The pyramid, in this light, transforms from a simple building into a physical anchor for a transcendental experience. It becomes a stone representation of a vision, a tool designed to help others achieve a similar state of connection without the need for ceremonial plants, using architecture itself to elevate human awareness. This perspective does not diminish the genius of these builders. Instead, it suggests their genius lay in synthesizing different ways of knowing. They may have blended rigorous empirical observation of the stars with profound inner journeys, receiving the sacred math from a place that modern thought has largely forgotten. The pyramids, therefore, stand as the ultimate fusion of reason and revelation, a testament to a time when humanity sought to build bridges not only to the heavens above, but to the vast, uncharted cosmos within. Plato's dialogues hold one of history's most tantalizing clues. In his works Timaeus and Critias, written around 360 B.C., he recounts a story told to his ancestor Solon by Egyptian priests. They spoke of a mighty island empire called Atlantis, a civilization of master engineers and navigators that possessed advanced technology and built a capital of concentric rings of land and water. This great power, they said, sank beneath the ocean in a single terrible day and night of cataclysm. For centuries, this account has been read as a philosophical allegory, a warning about the pride of nations. Yet what if it was also a distorted memory of a historical reality? The description of the Atlanteans as unparalleled builders who constructed magnificent temples and canals aligns eerily with the unexplained skills of pyramid architects across the globe. If a seafaring culture of such sophistication did exist and met a sudden, catastrophic end, its survivors scattered by the disaster would have carried the core of their knowledge with them. These refugees, landing on the shores of different continents, could have become the revered teachers, the divine bringers of culture who gifted local populations the secrets of sacred geometry, megalithic construction, and celestial observation. This single narrative neatly explains the sudden and simultaneous emergence of the pyramid blueprint in Egypt, the Americas, and beyond. It proposes a lost source, a common root for a global phenomenon. Mainstream historians rightly point out the lack of physical evidence for a sunken continent in the Atlantic Ocean, and they classify the story as myth. Yet the persistence of the Atlantis idea in popular imagination speaks to a deep human intuition. It fulfills a longing for a clear answer, a singular, brilliant source for all these scattered, mysterious monuments. It represents the ultimate origin story for the hidden blueprint, a compelling, if unproven, chapter in humanity's forgotten history. Whether literal truth or powerful myth, the story of Atlantis serves a crucial purpose. It forces us to consider that our planet's past might be far more complex and interconnected than our textbooks allow. What other lost chapters, what other sunken worlds might still be waiting to be rediscovered, not under the ocean waves, but hidden in plain sight within the silent, enduring stones of our ancient world? The same geometry that anchored ancient civilizations now defines our modern skylines. The sleek glass pyramid at the Louvre in Paris is not merely a striking entrance, it is a conscious echo of a timeless form, a bridge between the classical art inside and the universal principles that inspired it. Across the Atlantic, the Transamerica Pyramid in San Francisco pierces the sky with a familiar silhouette, its design chosen specifically for its stability and symbolic power. These are not accidental resemblances, they are deliberate homages, an architectural acknowledgement that this ancient shape still holds a profound resonance for us today. But the influence extends far beyond aesthetics. A persistent and curious line of inquiry, often called pyramid power, continues to explore the shape's potential physical effects. Enthusiasts have long claimed that placing a dull razor blade under a small-scale model can somehow realign its edge, that organic matter like food decomposes more slowly within the pyramid's space, or that seeds germinate faster under its influence. Mainstream science remains deeply skeptical of these specific claims, often attributing the results to placebo or uncontrolled environmental factors. Yet the sheer volume of anecdotal reports gathered over decades raises a fascinating question. What if these experiments, however informal, are hinting at a real phenomenon we do not yet fully understand with our current instruments? This enduring modern fascination is perhaps the most compelling evidence for the blueprint's genius. It suggests the original builders were not just constructing monuments, but were manipulating fundamental forces of nature, principles of energy and resonance that our contemporary physics is only beginning to map. The pyramid shape itself may act as a passive energy lens, a geometric form that subtly interacts with the Earth's own magnetic field or other ambient energies. While we may dismiss the stories of preserved food or sharpened blades, our continued attraction to this form points to a deeper truth. The ancient architects may have understood something about the relationship between shape and energy, about the way specific geometry can influence the physical world that we are still struggling to quantify. Their legacy is not locked in the past. It lives on in our steel and glass towers and in the quiet, ongoing experiments of those who sense there is still a secret waiting within the angles. This is not about proving old myths, but about rediscovering a lost science. The silent stones of the ancients are still speaking, and we are only just learning how to listen. The allure of ancient mysteries often gives rise to spectacular, if unproven, claims. Among the most persistent is the notion that these magnificent structures were built by visitors from another world. This idea suggests that humanity alone was incapable of such feats, yet this perspective does a profound disservice to the ingenuity of our ancestors. It dismisses the very real evidence of human achievement etched into every stone. The true mystery is not whether aliens built the pyramids, but how human beings, with the tools and knowledge available to them, accomplished these wonders. Our journey is to uncover that human story, not to replace it with science fiction. Another popular myth involves the so-called pyramid inch, a unit of measurement supposedly derived from the Great Pyramid that holds prophetic meaning. Proponents claim this measure can predict future events or reveal hidden codes. The flaw in this logic is fundamental. When you start with a complex structure filled with countless measurements, it is statistically inevitable that you can find numbers that seem to correspond with almost anything you wish, from the distance to the sun to the birth of a religious leader. This is a classic case of cherry-picking data to fit a predetermined conclusion, a practice that undermines genuine archaeological inquiry. We must also address the exaggerated claims of magical properties. While the pyramid form does interact with energy in fascinating ways, as we have explored, this is a matter of physics, not magic. Stories of razor blades sharpening themselves or food never spoiling inside a pyramid model have not held up under controlled scientific testing. These tales, while captivating, often rely on selective reporting and the powerful influence of belief. Letting go of these fantasies is not a loss of wonder. It is a necessary step to clear the path for a deeper, more authentic awe. By stripping away the layers of modern myth, we can finally confront the raw, staggering reality of what these ancient cultures truly achieved. The evidence for a shared human blueprint is compelling enough without needing embellishment. The consistent mathematics, the global celestial alignments, the advanced engineering solutions, these are all verifiable facts. They point to a forgotten chapter in human history, one of incredible sophistication and interconnectedness. This reality of a potentially global civilization or a widely disseminated body of knowledge is a far more revolutionary and humbling concept than any extraterrestrial intervention. It challenges our entire understanding of human progress. Embracing a rigorous, evidence-based approach does not diminish the mystery. It refines it, allowing us to ask the right questions and perhaps, finally, hear the true story the stones have been trying to tell us all along. These colossal structures were also instruments of social order. The pyramid did not merely touch the sky, it organized the society that built it, creating a center of gravity for an entire civilization. The sheer act of construction required the collective effort of thousands of people, from quarry workers and stonemasons to farmers supplying food and organizers managing the immense logistics. This was not slave labor driven by a whip, as outdated stories suggest, but a highly coordinated social project. The ability to mobilize and sustain such a workforce for generations points to a sophisticated administrative system, a template for state formation itself. The pyramid was the ultimate community endeavor, uniting dispersed populations under a shared religious and cultural banner, giving them a common, awe-inspiring purpose. Physically, the structure was a perfect metaphor for the society that built it. Its stratified layers, culminating in a single apex, mirrored a social hierarchy with a divine ruler or priestly class at the summit. Every citizen had a defined place in this grand design, from the laborers forming the broad base to the nobles and astronomers occupying the higher tiers. This was not just symbolic, it was a daily, visible reminder of the social contract. The pyramid's overwhelming scale and perfection inspired a mixture of pride, loyalty, and reverence, solidifying the authority of those who commanded its creation. This shared architectural statement across the globe is a powerful clue. The blueprint was not just about mathematics and astronomy, it was a proven model for civilization building. It provided a template for consolidating power, managing vast resources, and forging a unified identity from a collection of disparate tribes. By directing a society's energy toward a single, monumental goal, the ruling class could foster unity, channel innovation, and create a lasting legacy. The pyramid was more than a temple or a tomb. It was the very engine of social cohesion, a stone machine for building a nation. The sacred geometry did not vanish with the last stone laid. It simply went underground, flowing like a hidden river through the secret societies and esoteric traditions of history. For centuries, groups like the Freemasons have used the pyramid and the all-seeing eye as their most profound emblems, not as mere decoration, but as a direct claim to an inherited legacy. They positioned themselves as the guardians of a lost architectural science, the keepers of the ancient blueprint. This was not an empty boast. Within their lodges, the tools of the stonemason, the square, the compass, the plumb line became spiritual metaphors for building a perfected self, mirroring the same principles of precision and alignment used to erect the physical pyramids. The knowledge was treated not as public information, but as a sacred trust, passed carefully from master to initiate in a chain of wisdom stretching back into a foggy antiquity. Alchemists and Hermetic philosophers, too, saw the pyramid as a grand textbook. They pored over its proportions, seeking the keys to spiritual transformation they believed were encoded in its angles. To them, the process of turning base lead into gold was a metaphor for the human soul's ascent toward enlightenment, a journey perfectly symbolized by the pyramid's climb from a broad, earthly base to a singular, celestial point. The consistent presence of these symbols and studies in these hidden streams of thought is itself a powerful piece of evidence. It implies that the core meaning of the pyramid was never truly lost. Instead, it was deliberately protected, sheltered from the upheavals of wars and the slow erosion of cultural memory. This secret lineage acted as a custodian, preserving the blueprint through times when its full meaning could not be widely understood. Why would such powerful knowledge need to be concealed? Perhaps it was to protect it from misuse, or because its true significance was considered too potent for the uninitiated. This continuous, whispered tradition suggests that a select few have always understood that these monuments were more than tombs or temples. They were the physical manifestation of a universal law, a science of soul and substance, held in trust until the world was ready to listen to their silent, stone sermon once more. The final frontier for pyramid research is not in distant lands, but in the silent data streams from orbit. Satellite archaeology is revolutionizing our search, using multispectral imaging to see what the human eye cannot. These advanced cameras detect subtle variations in vegetation health and soil density, revealing the ghostly outlines of buried walls and plazas hidden beneath centuries of sand or jungle canopy. From the vast deserts of Egypt to the dense rainforests of the Amazon, this technology acts as a global X-ray, uncovering lost cities and smaller pyramid structures that were once invisible. These new discoveries are not isolated dots on a map. They are potential waypoints in the global network, filling in the blank spaces between the known monuments. Meanwhile, beneath the very stones we walk upon, other technologies are at work. Ground-penetrating radar sends pulses of energy into the Earth, building a three-dimensional picture of hidden chambers and sealed passageways. Even more profound is muon tomography, a technique that uses cosmic rays to peer deep into solid stone. By measuring how these subatomic particles are absorbed as they pass through the pyramid, scientists can create a density map of the interior, revealing voids and chambers without moving a single block. This method is already being used to scan the Great Pyramid, searching for the hidden spaces that theories have long predicted. As these tools become more powerful and widely available, a complete picture is set to emerge. We will no longer be guessing at the connections between sites. We will be able to map them with scientific precision, tracing the hypothetical ley lines and geometric patterns across the entire planet with hard data. This incoming wave of information holds the key to the ultimate validation. It will either confirm the existence of a deliberate, interconnected blueprint written into the Earth itself, or it will force us to reconsider the entire mystery. The next great discovery in pyramid research may not require a single shovel to break ground. It may arrive as a signal from space, a pattern in the data, revealing the final, lost chapter of a story written in stone. Our journey across deserts and jungles leads to a single, profound realization. These stone giants are not isolated marvels, but scattered pages from a single, grand design, a hidden blueprint for harmonizing human endeavor with the cosmos itself. We have traced the same sacred math from Giza to Teotihuacan, followed celestial maps written in stone, and uncovered engineering principles so advanced they defy simple explanation. The spiritual thread of the serpent, the quest for enlightenment, and the use of sound and geometry to alter consciousness all point toward a common source. This vast, interconnected evidence compels us to reconsider the very narrative of human history. The conventional story of civilizations developing in total isolation can no longer comfortably contain the weight of this global pattern. While many questions remain unanswered, the case for a forgotten, interconnected network of knowledge is both compelling and humbling. This mystery is an open invitation to look upon our ancient past with fresh eyes and a renewed sense of wonder. It challenges us to question the boundaries of what we think we know. The story etched into these stones is far from over. New technologies are scanning their secrets from orbit and with cosmic rays, promising revelations we can scarcely imagine. Perhaps the next great discovery in this unfolding saga will not come from a distant dig site, but from a new interpretation of the data, or even from a curious mind like yours, seeing a connection that others have missed. What do you believe is the most compelling piece of this ancient puzzle? Share your thoughts on this incredible theory in the comments below, and subscribe to join us as we continue to unravel history's greatest secrets together.